We're getting some breaking news coming into the situation right now from about Michael Jackson, the king of pop, who's 50 years old. Let's go to Deborah Farrick. She's working the story for us. What are we picking up, Deb?
Well, Wolf, here's what we can tell you. This is what's being reported by KTLA. Apparently, Michael Jackson suffered cardiac arrest this afternoon.
Well, we do know that he's been in Los Angeles preparing to undertake this major concert event that he was scheduled to perform in London this coming summer.
I have to stop you for a second, AJ. CNN can now confirm from the LA coroner that Michael Jackson is dead.
So we just talked about Biggie. Probably the next most famous case, if not even more famous case than that one in your time there at the medical examiner's office, is the death of Michael Jackson.
Yes.
What do you remember from that whole situation?
I remember quite a bit because it was what it was. So in this case, the initial tip-off to us that this was occurring was from LA City Fire Brian Humphrey, who was a PIO.
What's that?
Public Information Officer.
Okay.
So he called and gave us a heads up. Said Michael Jackson's just been taken to UCLA Medical Center and he's not doing great and just wanted you guys to get a heads up. The first thing that we did is I had my assistant chief, Ed Winter, and then we selected one of our top investigators, the great Alyssa Fleek. And they rolled out to the hospital to begin the investigation there. So he'd been pronounced, and Dr. Murray had also come to the ER at the same time.
And that was the doctor, for people who don't remember, that was
the doctor who was with Michael Jackson in his home on Carrollwood, I believe it was, and was the person responsible for administering the drugs, the propofol. So he came to the ER, and then he tried to kind of make himself smaller and smaller and smaller. And
I was just there, man.
Yeah. So so that was kind of interesting. That I don't know what he would necessarily bring to the table when you got one of the finest ERs in LA is trying to take care of this person and bring him back to some sense of stability.
Yeah, and UCLA Medical is fantastic.
Oh, it absolutely is. Yeah, I mean, they're, LAC, USC gets a bad rep sometimes, but if I was going to go in some place, that UCLA would be right up there with my places to go to.
There, and probably Cedars would be up there too.
Cedars
was Biggie.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, he gets pronounced, and we make arrangements to transport him to the office. We have our transport fleet there, and they're going to move him down here. So he comes down to the office, and we start our normal procedure. The investigator does the report. I don't even think her report was finished when they scheduled him for autopsy. But It was, again, what we've talked about earlier, getting them examined and out of the building as soon as possible.
Right.
So I think the report probably followed, but the homicide detectives would show up on the day of the autopsy, and I think we wanted him done the next day. So that's what we were working on. So anyway, we did the examination, and as you might suspect, we have no cause of death yet because everything's going to hinge on the toxicology and then the interpretation of the toxicology. What does that mean to Mr. Jackson? So that was coming down the pike, and it's going to be weeks away. And so then it was time to release the body, and the family had selected Forest Lawn as the Handley mortuary. So I was tasked, I contacted Forest Lawn, and I said, I have good news and bad news. The good news is the Jackson family has selected Forest Lawn to handle the services for Mr. Jackson. The bad news is you have to take him right now, because we wanted him out of the building so that we could get back to normal. The media presence at the coroner's office was just intense. And if you're not, you're kind of familiar with the layout of the office where the loading ramp is, and there's a gate right there. And we had media people staking out that gate, and they were stopping coroner vans, leaving, coming, asking them, do you have Michael Jackson? Is that Michael Jackson? You know, everybody wanted to be the first to know. And so what we did is once we got Forest Lawn's consent to transport him to the mortuary, we set up a van to move him. And it was just like undercover kind of thing. It was just like, we're just going to take him over there and deliver him to Forest Lawn, and they can take care of him from there. But that was interesting. I'm glad the family was ready to do that. There was going to be no argument over where he was going to go. I mean,
right.
They couldn't have picked probably a finer mortuary business
right.
in the county. But when you talk about strange things that happen, you talk about a body double for Tupac Shakur. Suddenly, on the internet, there's this video, and the video shows a coroner van, and it drives into a subterranean parking lot, and then it parks near a door, and then the doors open, and a living Michael Jackson steps out and goes inside this building. So from that point on, it's like, he's not really dead, is he? He lives. And everybody
right.
would like that to be the case, but that wasn't the case. So that media caught on, and then the Board of Supervisors caught on, and they were livid because as far as they were concerned, they were seeing a coroner's van being driven and some sort of staged event taking place, and somehow the coroner was responsible for it. And what we found out as we started looking into this thing, it was actually produced, I believe, by a company in Germany. And they had taken photographs and created graphics of how our vans were painted and outfitted and what have you. So they created their own Ford Econoline with a blue stripe and the word coroner, et cetera, like that. They created that themselves, and then they found a Michael Jackson impersonator or whatever, and the rest is kind of history. And they were like so angry that we were doing this. Like, it's not us. This is
right.
This is the insanity of the media interest in this case that's doing this kinds of stuff. We're just, and I point out, we try to get back to business as soon as we can. But now I'm tracking down who these people are and where they're at and where did this video come from and stuff
right.
like that. So it was just a little hitch in the giddy up. But a lot of folks don't know that was, they may still not know that video was bogus, but
sure,
it was.
Yeah, it's Biggie's murder has been recreated multiple times for various productions, and one of the most common photos I see that's supposed to be from the scene of the crime, I know, is a screenshot from one of the scripted shows that was done. The people you see are actors. The bullet holes in the door are fake.
Right.
But I've seen it even appear in documentaries.
So in the investigation of Michael Jackson's death, I went to the house on Carrollwood with Assistant Chief Winter, and we looked at the bedroom and opened cabinets and drawers and stuff like that. And one of the responsibilities of the coroner is to recover medical evidence. So every bottle of pills, every full or empty bottle of propofol, any other drug that was being used to maintain Michael Jackson in that sedated state, we took possession of and brought it in as medical evidence. And then in the course of the investigation, the law enforcement agency wanted to fingerprint the bottles to see who handled them. Dr. Murray, because there was an assertion at some point that Michael Jackson did it himself. He administered the drug. So that was left to us to try to figure out. So we ended up going back to Forest Lawn, Glendale, and this is after Michael's services and stuff, and we had them pull the body. He hadn't been interred yet.
Oh, wow.
We had them pull the casket out and open the casket, and we did this with the full knowledge of the Jackson family and Katherine Jackson, and we worked mostly with LaToya. They were the most wonderful people and understanding and helpful of us trying to resolve what's happened here.
Right.
So what our mission is to do palm prints of Michael Jackson. So when they printed the jars of medication or whatever, they can compare to whatever whatever palm prints.
To see who had handled that medication, him
who
or
had
Murray.
handled,
Right.
exactly. On most homicides, we would do fingerprints and palm prints and stuff like that. That's normal. But because this wasn't a homicide at that particular juncture, it was just an accident. And so, but we had to go do that. So
Wow.
it was just interesting, and I'm thankful the Jackson family was so understanding.
Yeah. On my trips to the coroner's offices, I remember there was a special area for celebrity bodies, basically. There was like a separate, because there's the main crypt,
Right.
which I remember it's like a real house of horrors if you're not used to it. I remember walking in there myself and just daring myself, how far into this room full of, 80 dead bodies could I make myself walk?
80? We were there on a light day.
It probably was a light day. It might have been over 100, I remember.
Yeah, I would probably guess it was. Yeah.
People think that they're in like the black body bags. They're not. They're loosely wrapped in a clear plastic sheet, basically with twine or kind of thin rope,
thin rope
tying around them. But you can see that they are bodies. You
Yeah.
can see them through the clear plastic. But then there was a separate, much smaller room that I was told is where celebrities like Michael Jackson would be held, because I guess it's extra security, or?
Yeah, we called those security crypts.
Okay.
And they were one-person crypts that a transfer table could roll in, and we could lock the door and nobody could access the body, because we know people are people, so we did our level best to secure everything and lock it down.
Right.
So, yeah.
For Michael Jackson, did you have to do press conferences?
Yes.
Did you have to do those?
Yeah, I have a pretty famous presence on the internet doing that.
My name is Craig Harvey. I'm the operations chief for the Los Angeles County Coroner and the coroner spokesperson. I'm here to announce that the coroner has concluded the autopsy for Mr. Michael Jackson.
As I said earlier, the media presence was just incredible. High number of people there from all over the world, not just local news, all over the world. And so when the day came that we were going to say anything to the media at all, we went outside. We had a captain from LAPD with us. My boss, the director at the time, came out, and we waded into this crowd of people with cameras blaring, and all I could do was just recite what we knew up to that point, because we still didn't have toxicology done, but we had to have police officers all around our building monitoring comings and goings, and there were people that tried to access the building and stuff like that. So it was just that crazy. It was just locked down. It's weird, and a lot of people don't think of this, but we're people who work in the coroner's office are people too. And so these kinds of things hit us hard as well. Michael Jackson was a special person, and so his passing left us all a little stunned that it would happen. So
wow,
we just tried to be the best and most helpful we could with the family, and just deal with it ourselves. But I still see footage, the footage of him practicing his routine for the upcoming tour he was going to be doing. I can feel it right here still to this day, that it just breaks me to see him.
Right. Just days before he died, yeah.
Because he's Michael Jackson, the Michael Jackson. That's the guy, and he looks so healthy and so on point. And then later on, people say, "Oh, well, look, he's skeletonized. He doesn't have any." No, he looked fully nourished to me. I mean, I saw him in the autopsy room. He looked healthy to me, and that's why I just don't understand why people were trash talking him, because you saw the dancing he was doing. That's no easy number to pull off unless you've got some good training and fitness. Yeah.
Right. Wow. What went through your head when you saw him after he had passed away? You talk about who it is. It must be surreal.
Oh, it absolutely was surreal. And remember when he was burned in the Pepsi fire thing? And so he had some discrepancies in his scalp as far as where hair growth would be. And so he wore a wig most of the time. And then to see him with At the time I saw him, I think the wig was just kind of off to the side a little bit. It wasn't on completely, it wasn't off completely, and off to the side. And it's like, that's not how I remember him. I don't want to remember him that way. I want to remember the guy that was dancing with his dancers on that stage.